All right, everybody, welcome back to I'll Read What She's Reading. I'm Reggie.
I'm Mikayla.
I'm Kennedy.
And today we have a very special guest.
Hi, Mercedes.
Hi, Mercedes. We're so excited. We have our very first guest on the podcast, and she's one of our very favorite book talkers. So, Mercedes, why don't you introduce yourself so our listeners can learn a little bit more about you?
Yes, my name is Mercedes. I'm also known as Book Club Wannabe over on TikTok. That's probably my biggest platform, where I just read and react to books. It's pretty crazy over there. So
I love the sign behind you in your
thank you.
room.
It's so cute.
I want one of those.
I know. What the heck?
Yeah, you have such a cute setup.
I know. What are we
Thank
doing
you.
with
It
our
was
life?
pretty much all my husband's ideas, so we can thank him for that.
Genius. We love a man.
Yep, we love a supportive husband who supports our book addiction. Yes,
so fun.
Definitely.
Perfect. So where are you located? I'm not sure if I know where you are.
I'm in Louisiana.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
In the
We
South.
live in Utah.
Oh, I think the farthest that way I got was Colorado.
So close-ish.
Well, cool. So first question we want to ask you, because we're talking about books. What are you currently reading?
Currently, I haven't started it yet, but I probably will start it at some point today. I'm in the middle of the Ever Seas series by L.J. Andrews. So I'm on the second book right now. That is The Ever Queen. The first book is The Ever King. And I think they have a third book coming out sometime in June as well. But I'm currently loving it. It's pretty good.
Okay, I haven't heard of it.
Me either. I haven't heard of that either.
What's it about? It.
It's well, if you're asking, it's essentially it's pirate fae versus Viking fae, so it's like romantic-y, and it's really good. And I say pirate fae versus Viking fae, it's pirate-esque, Viking-esque. It's not like full-blown like like the Norse lore. It's the same kind of vibes. And it's really good. I am loving the banter. I am a sucker for a romantasy that has good banter and good tension between the two main characters. And that is what this book is. And the first book leaves you just desperate for more. It leaves you hanging right off a cliff. So I am like running into the next book, The Ever Queen, and I'm so excited for it.
Adding it to our list right now.
Yeah, you've sold us.
I feel like that sounds
good.
like all the things we like in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really good. It took me a second to get into it, but I think that's just my own personal problems right now. I'm having an issue with fantasy. I love fantasy, but I think I like burnt myself out on it a little bit. But this one, it took me a second to get into it, but once I was in it, I was like fully invested.
Yeah, we call that fantasy fatigue.
Yes, that's what I have been, fantasy fatigue.
Would you say you mostly read fantasy? Or what do you mostly read? Or are you just like all over the place?
Yeah, I'm pretty all over the place. I say I have a romance TBR, a thriller TBR, and a fantasy TBR that I'll kind of like go back and forth in between. Usually what it is I'm either like binging a lot of romance or a lot of fantasy, and I'll use a thriller as a palate cleanser. Right now I'm reading a lot of romance.
It's summer. I feel like summer is the time to read all the romance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about your videos is genuinely you read so many different genres, and also you read so many books that I've never heard of, which is so refreshing, especially on BookTok, because I feel like everybody talks about the same exact books, but you bring such unique books onto BookTok, and I just really appreciate that.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. I really appreciate hearing that. I do try to diversify my content. I follow a lot of indie authors or a lot of smaller accounts is usually where I'll get a lot of my book recommendations from. So I appreciate you saying that. I do love a good popular book on BookTok because I think it's worth the hype, but I also think it's good to get these books that may not have as much hype into the same conversation.
Well, I just remember the first video I ever saw of you was your How Does It Feel video. You like slammed the book onto your kitchen counter. I think your kitchen reviews are my favorite videos on BookTok. They're so entertaining.
Oh my God.
So do you feel like, I guess my question is, what do you like, What do you feel like, what books do you think your followers associate with you the most? Do you feel like it's that How Does It Feel book, or what books?
Oh yeah, it's definitely How Does It Feel. I still to this day probably get like 4 or 5 tags a day for How Does It Feel, and I love it so much. When I first read that book, Janine O'Reilly, she's the author of that book. She was a small indie author, and I think at that point I read it. It had like 100 reviews on Amazon, and the same for me though too. Like I only had like 200 followers on TikTok when I first read that book, and I read it. And obviously, have you guys read it yet?
Not
I know
yet.
it's on your
Not
TBR.
yet.
No, yeah.
Okay, I don't blame you. The TBR is never ending, but it really made me feel some type of way, and I just love that. You know, I'm such a enthusiastic reader. Like when I read a book and it really makes me feel that way, like I'm fully immersed in that feeling. And that's why I love reading so much. So that book definitely was the first time that I was literally hopping around my kitchen. So I'm happy that that book of all books got that hype.
Yeah, we're excited to read it. It's been on all of our TBRs because of you. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
No,
Well,
I don't blame you. It's okay.
I think it's even on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, is
Or
it?
it used
is.
to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
It is.
I was even going to purchase it on Amazon, but it was unavailable because I think she signed with a publisher and it's not like officially published. And I saw it in Target for the first time and I was so tempted, but I'm on a book buying ban. But it's really cool that I feel like you kind of sparked that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
the influence that BookTok has is crazy.
Well, and did you meet her in Readers Take Denver, whatever that was?
Yes, I did meet her. She
How
is
was
the
that?
sweetest person. Well, I think that moment was pretty monumental for us both. She was an indie author and I was like a little nobody on BookTok. And I posted that video and it did so many great things for her, but it also at the same time did so many great things for me. So it was just meeting her was like that moment, like she was like, she calls me Jesus. Or
Stop
she
it.
she said, you're Jesus in our household. And I'm like, you're the same to me though. It's like, it's the same thing. And she's genuinely the sweetest person ever. So I'm happy of like
So cute.
all people. It was with Janine. She's so sweet.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
How cool that you both got to make that big of an impact on each other's lives.
I know.
I'm gonna
It
tear
is
up.
kind of crazy if you think about it.
That
Yeah.
is so cool.
So tell our listeners who aren't familiar with that book a little bit about the book so they know what we're talking about.
So I'm the type of reviewer where I don't want to spoil the plot for you. I usually like to go into books blind, so that's usually how I like to recommend my books. This is a type of book that leaves you off of a cliffhanger, but it's unique in the way that it's not just a cliffhanger, it's like a whiplash in the plot. Like you're like struggling to understand what's happening and there's only 10 pages left and like you're scrambling to the next book, but at the time I read the book, the next book wasn't out, and it's just, it leaves you questioning everything. It leaves you wanting to go back to reread it to pick up on these certain plot points that you maybe passed off and you weren't like paying attention to, but now that you know the ending, you're like, wait a second, the signs were all there.
That's cool. I'm really excited to get into that. I needed to put it up to the more top of my list.
Seriously.
Oh, it makes me nervous. I hope you guys love it. I'm always nervous to recommend a book that I love to people because I don't want you guys to hate it. And if you hate it, don't tell me, please.
I know. It's
We
like,
feel the same.
yeah,
We feel
when
the
someone
same.
doesn't like one of your favorite books, it's a knife to the heart. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But reading is like super subjective. So, I mean, there's books that I love that these two don't love as much. And I'm like, you're going to make me cry. And there's the opposite where they like love a book. And I was like, oh, that was just okay. But I think that's what's awesome about reading is it affects everyone differently. And so I think it's just really cool how like into it you get. I love all the emotion when it comes to reading your books. I'm just obsessed with your review videos. They're so fun.
Genuinely, I think your review videos are my favorite review videos on TikTok because you are so passionate
reals.
about it.
Well, and we send your videos to each other.
Yes.
A lot.
Oh my God.
We should probably read this.
Yeah. We have our group chat, and if you look at it, it's full of TikToks recommending books, and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to read this.
Well, I
love that so much.
I swear, I think you've made a TikTok about Butcher and Blackbird, right? Or am I making that up?
I did, yes.
Okay, I read that book because of your review, and I know it's a super popular BookTok book now, but were you listening to it?
I was, yeah. I listened to the audio.
Yeah, I watched your TikTok when you were listening to it, and I immediately added it on Audible and listened to it too. It was so unhinged, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm so happy. That's why I do it. It's always good to hear that, because sometimes, when you're editing a video, you're like, is this stupid? You just watch it so many times and you're like, wait, is this kind of dumb? But it's good to hear that people are enjoying it as much as I am.
I don't know if you feel this way or if these two feel this way, but I feel like making a video for TikTok about a book that you like is so different than actually recommending it to someone. Not that we're face to face, but when you recommend books to friends or family, I feel like it's way more intimidating than recommending a book just straight up on TikTok.
No, I think I'm kind of opposite than that. I think I would rather get on TikTok and talk about it because, I do come from a family full of readers. I say, like, my sister is a really big reader, and then my mother-in-law and sister-in-laws, they're also really big readers. But I get nervous recommending books to them because it's just like, if I directly recommend you a book and you hate it, I take it personal. But if I film myself talking about a book and then you decide to read it, I'm not pressuring you to read it or anything. It feels a little different. It takes out that pressure, I guess. So I think I'm a little opposite. But I do see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see both sides of it.
Yeah. I just get nervous in general to recommend any books.
So what are your top 3 books that you would recommend to someone?
This is such a hard question. Hard because I feel like it's always constantly changing. Like, if you would have asked me a year ago what my top 3 books were, I would have said something super different. Currently, if I had to say what my top 3 favorite reads are, it would probably be Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, The Confidence of Wildflowers by Mikayla Smeltzer, and I have to go with Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick. That is one of my favorite books too. So if I had to, I think those would be my 3. But also at the same time, I feel bad because there's all these other books that are also so good.
We know the pain.
But,
yeah. It's constantly changing. I feel like it kind of just depends on the stage of life you're in. Because one of our first few episodes we ever did was saying our favorite books, and it's way changed since then.
Yeah.
So I've never heard of the first 2 that you said. So we're going to be adding more to our list. Thanks for that.
The first 2, Still Beating and Kid, they're dark romances. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Cool. But Two Twisted Crowns is really good. We loved that. We did it for one of our...
Yeah, we did One Dark Window as one of our book club books.
Yeah.
We just appreciate a good duology. Because there's so many books that are series, and it can feel a little daunting, especially with fantasy because they're usually really long. So we appreciate a very good duology between the 3 of us. So that's a good pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. A good duology. I need to read more. I have so many duologies on my TBR that I just need to read, but there's not enough hours in the day to read all these books.
So many books, so little time.
Also, kind of going back to your videos, we saw that you recently had read Hidden Pictures. And that has been on our TBR for a while. We're actually debating about doing it for our October book club book, but we're interested to know your thoughts because we really don't know anything about the book. It just looks really interesting.
Yes. So when I first found that book, so my favorite thing to do when I'm at Barnes & Noble is just walk around and pick up books that I've never seen or heard about. I love going into books completely blind. And that was Hidden Pictures for me. I saw it in Barnes and Noble. I need more thriller books. I've been asking a lot for more thriller recommendations. And it was in the thriller section. But it's actually a paranormal suspense horror book. It's not thriller. And I don't know specifically what the difference are between thriller and horror. Like, I don't know what makes that crossover really. But I will say I was like 100 pages in and I had to like take a second and be like, this isn't a thriller. This has to be something else. And I went on Amazon and it was a paranormal suspense horror. And I was like, okay, this makes more sense. It is really, really good. Do you guys like spooky, scary, paranormal movies?
When I'm in the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in the mood.
But I think I could read one. I just don't know if I would like watching one.
We feel like reading and watching is like really different. So like I can read like thrillers and kind of spookier things, but watching it is like a completely different story for me. I don't know why, but I enjoy a good.
I like to get spooked.
I like to get spooked.
Okay, I think this would be like a good beginner book for that then. Like, it's not too like, oh my god, I can't read this. It definitely starts off really building that eeriness and really building that suspense. But it's not, in my opinion, like, it's not like you think of a scary paranormal movie like The Conjuring and the final moment, like the final say all in Conjuring is like too much. It's like a little too spooky. It's not that way in Hidden Pictures. It definitely has a twist at the end that I would be surprised if you would be able to guess. But I think it would be like a good beginner, like horror, paranormal suspense type book. It was really good. I didn't see the ending coming. And it was like, once I got into it, I couldn't put it down. Like, I was binging the book.
And there's a visual element to it, right?
Yes, that was actually one of my favorite parts of the book. So there's a babysitter who's babysitting a 5-year-old. She was invited into this family. They were desperate to find someone to watch their kid while they went to work before they could start school. So she was pretty much watching the kid for the summer. As she was watching him, they would bring these pictures to them, and it would be like the most questionable drawing that a child could draw. And she would ask about it, and they would say, oh, my imaginary friend is telling me to draw these pictures. Which is, like, my worst fear ever. Like, I try to put myself in that situation. Like, if that was to actually happen, oh my god, I would quit. That kid, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, but I loved that throughout that book.
Oh, I'm excited because I've thought about potentially listening to it, but then I'm like, oh, there's the...
Yeah,
immersive,
I think you need those pictures.
Visual, yeah. So I need to purchase it.
Now I want to read that.
It's worth it.
But in the summer, I'm like reading a spooky paranormal.
We should do it for
October.
That would be a good one for October for sure.
Sweet. Well, circling back to your start, I guess, with... I guess we are just interested in hearing how you became a reader and a little bit more about your reading journey.
So when I was younger, like if we go like flashback all the way, I wasn't a big reader when I was younger. I probably read like The Hunger Games when I was like 12 or 13. And that was it. My sister was a really, really big reader when we were younger, and she kind of stayed that way throughout her life. But I was never that. But probably January 2023, I saw a video about November 9 by Colleen Hoover on TikTok, and I wasn't really big on BookTok. I didn't know that was a thing. I just saw this video, and I was like, looking for a hobby at that time. I was like, I need something to like fill in the gaps of time to like kind of decompress and take my mind off things. And so I read November 9, and thus my Colleen Hoover phase was born. I've probably read every Colleen Hoover standalone book that there was, and I was obsessed. But it wasn't really like I wasn't as much as a devoted reader as I am now until I stumbled upon The Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, we all go through a Colleen Hoover phase and an ACOTAR phase, I swear. So.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was like reading a lot of Colleen Hoover. I have a huge stack of her books, and I like probably switched in between Colleen Hoover to Lucy Score, and I was just sticking pretty much to romance at that point. But I wasn't on BookTok. I didn't know the hype around ACOTAR, which I love that I didn't know that there was this hype around it. But I was in Walmart and I saw it, and I was like, maybe I'll read it. Maybe I'll pick it up. But I almost DNF'd it because it was so different from what I was used to. Like, I was like, I don't know, what is happening here? I don't know if I want to read this. But back then, I usually would only buy like 2 books every 2 weeks. So I DNF'd it, read the other book that I bought, and I was like, well, I only have A Court of Thorn and Roses left, so I guess I'll read it. I guess I'll see what it's about. And it was like at that moment, something changed within me, and I was like born as a full-blown book girly. So that's like the moment for me that changed everything, which I feel like is Candid. If you read the whole A Court of Thorn and Roses series,
yeah.
We love it. But I remember at the end of Silver Flames, I was like so emotionally distraught. Not that the book doesn't have a happy ending, but the fact that it was over and I had no one to talk to about it. No one in my life at that point had read the series. Now I've bullied my sister and my sister-in-law to read the series, so now, they know what it's about. But I was going into the Throne of Glass series because the SJM effect, you read one of her books, you have to read all of them. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like, there's no way I'm doing this alone. There's no way I'm reading this series alone. I'm just going to start a little book talk. I'm going to start a little TikTok doing read-alongs with the Throne of Glass series and just, hopefully meet people who are reading it at the same time or who have read it and can offer moral support or whatever it is. And so that's how I originally started my book talk. And then now here we are.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I feel like it's almost like a universal experience because I think that was literally so close to being the exact same story for us.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
We started with Colleen Hoover, and then ACOTAR.
Literally.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like you, I never was a reader. I read Hunger Games when it came out, and then I don't think I ever picked up a book. And then I was spending so much time on TikTok that I decided I needed to have a better outlet instead of scrolling for 3 hours a day.
Right.
So I picked up Colleen Hoover. And yeah, it's just so funny how as adults it's kind of just the same for everyone.
I know.
Well, and also so cool that books... Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it's so cool that books can just bring people together. I think that's what's so cool about BookTok. There's definitely toxic sides of it, but it's really cool to see that just like one book. I mean, we saw, like you were talking about with the How Does It Feel book, it can bring so many people together, and it's so much more fun to read when you have people to talk to about the books that you're reading.
Definitely, for sure. And I just want to hit on the fact, like, I know sometimes when we talk about book talk, I feel like we have to disclose that there's this toxic side of book talk, and that's so sad that we have to do that. But I will say that that's genuinely not my experience on book talk. I feel like I have a great community of people, or a lot of people that I've met through my book talk. I do know that the toxic side exists, but if you are scared of book talk or it's intimidating to you, I just want you to know that there is a spot that's not so bad. Like, there is a community out there that is loving and is not as toxic as I feel like the first glance you get at book talk. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just my little saying plea for book talk.
No,
yes.
I agree. I also think that we haven't really had any negative interactions with book talk. it's just, you know, we've seen it, you know, it's hard to avoid, but I think there's still lots of positive things that, I mean, with everything, I feel like with everything, there can always be a darker side to something.
Exactly.
And, you know, if you let that overtake, like, your thoughts, that's obviously going to consume your TikTok, you know, because the algorithm will really immerse you in it. But if you're just ignoring it, I feel like you'll have a really positive experience on BookTok.
Yeah, you get what you put into it.
Yeah.
For anyone who's listening that may be on the toxic side, go to Mercedes' profile, go like all her videos, go comment on all her videos, and then you'll be on.
You'll be in a happy place.
Yeah. You'll be on the good side.
Oh my God. Stop it. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this one big debate going on around BookTok, that BookTok only reads a bunch of smut. And it irks me down to my deepest core, and I've refrained from saying anything, but if I see one more video of some random person saying BookTok only reads smut, it's gonna send me over. But yeah, that's not the case. It's not true. There's lots of different books, lots of different genres, lots of different everything in the book world.
Hey, but you know what? If someone wants to only read smut and that's what they like, then more power to them, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There's worse things you could be doing.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I hate that they like put everyone in this category, but there's so many different categories on BookTok, and there's a lot of people like you who read all kinds of genres. So to like be put in that category, I feel like is like almost like a smack in the face, because you're like,
I know.
I enjoy that.
I take it personal.
Smut, but I also enjoy lots of other things. So.
And usually, like, within these, like, spicy books, like, if you really break it down, like, how much plot there is versus how much spice there is, it's, like, 10 pages of a 400-page book. Are you serious? Like, why are you focused on that? There's so many deeper things happening in this background, and you're only worried about the spice, and it's always someone who's never even read the damn book. So, please keep it moving. Like,
Amen.
I hate it so much.
Maybe this is not the question we should ask you after just discussing that, but if you had to pick a favorite genre, what would you pick?
Oh, no. Like, if I had to pick between fantasy, romance, and thriller?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe it's just, like, a current mood. Maybe you're, like, you know, I can see the battle in your internal battle.
Like, right now, it would probably be romance. Because I feel like there's such a broad... You can get a lot of different things from romance. And I am going to include romantasy and romance because... that makes my heart happy, but there's so many different things that you can include in romance, and that has been making my heart happy with romance currently. But like I go through phases. Like sometimes I'm binging thriller, fantasy, whatever it is. But right now, I currently am doing a lot of romance.
So, what are some of your recent romance reads that you've been loving?
Oh wow, that's a heavy question.
We're hitting you with the hard questions.
Yeah. I know. I'm like looking at my bookshelf. Like, I just went over all of the books I read in April, and then suddenly I've forgotten them all. Like, I'm like, romance. I've read romance books. What are they? Some of my favorite. Well, I just read That Sick Love by Jessie Hall. Have you guys read any Jessie Hall books? No. I love Jessie Hall. She's so good at writing men. I know that's kind of interesting to say. She actually has one of my favorite books ever was Kid by Jessie Hall, and that whole book is told through a male's point of view, which I think is super unique when it comes to romance, and I loved it. She just writes men in these best ways. I call them one-liners. She'll slip in these one-liners that when you're reading it and the main male character says something, you're like, hold on, wait, okay, I'm here for this. So That Sick Love is a dark romance. It really does have dark elements. I know people kind of compare it in the same category as Haunting Adeline, so keep that in mind. One of my favorite fluffier romances is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. That is perfect. Have you guys heard of that? I just finished that. Did you love it?
Yes, it was so cute. So we're actually all wedding photographers, And so the whole wedding planner aspect, it was really fun because we are in the wedding industry. That was so much fun for me. And I loved the main male character.
Yes, me too. I loved their whole dynamic. I loved the, like, she was a wedding planner. He was the florist. That's like chef's kisses. Think of a better duo. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are all wedding photographers. That's so fun. How cute.
Yeah, that's kind of like what sparked our friendship, which then sparked our book reading podcast. It's just been a domino effect.
Yeah. I love it. That's perfect.
We really wanted to know what your like most anticipated read of 2024 is.
Like, are we talking like books that haven't been released yet, or books that are just on my TBR?
Maybe both.
Yeah. Maybe give us one on your TBR and one that hasn't been released.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so one that's been on my TBR for the longest time that I feel like has a lot of book talk hype around it that I haven't read yet is The Serpents of Wings and Night.
Yes.
I haven't read it yet, but there's so many people recommending it to me that I want to read it. And it's just a duology, or I think there's a third book coming out in that series.
There's a third one coming out in November.
I don't know when, but yes, there's a third
Yes,
book.
I think it's November.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a duology
So
with a novella. I guess I guess it's not a duology if there's a third book coming out, but it's kind of like a continuation of the story. Yeah.
Potentially with different characters.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to read that.
Yeah, that's something I'm super excited to read. And I think something that's coming out soon that I'm excited for is probably Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I loved Powerless, and so it's right around the corner. It's soon. I haven't read Powerless, though. And I don't know if I'm going to be honest, I don't know if this is like a hot take. I don't know if I want to.
Same. The Powerful book?
The Powerful?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We had people messaging
like
us, asking us how we felt about it. And we, I just really don't like reading books where I already know the outcome.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
I just have a hard time.
A little too sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of people saying it is really, really sad.
See, I just can't. That's how I feel.
Maybe if I'm in the mood to cry, you know?
Yeah.
I know. I feel the same way if I had told her by Lauren Norwin. Yeah. I don't know if I can ever read that. I have it. It's on my TBR. Maybe somewhere in the distant future, but it's so sad. I almost gaslit myself into reading that book because I was like, wow, I'll just read it. I read the first book, loved it. Might as well read the second. I read the first chapter and I was like, absolutely not. I can't do this. I can't do it. Yeah.
I think
definitely if you need a good tearjerker, though.
I didn't realize, I don't know why it didn't go through my head that it literally tells you what happens in like the first part of the book, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, that just didn't register. Yeah. I didn't know she was for real about it.
I know, she's serious.
Well, we're very excited to see a reaction to Serpents and Reckless. We're hoping you smack the kitchen table.
That's my go-to.
So we'll be waiting in anticipation.
Yeah, we really liked Serpents.
I think you'll like Serpents.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I'm hoping. My sister recommended it to me. My sister's a really big reader, but the problem with me and my sister is usually if I love a book, she hates it. And if she loves a book, I hate it. So she loves The Serpents of Wings and Night, and I'm hoping that also means that this is the anomaly and I love it too. Because I want to love it.
It's okay if you don't, though. I feel like you will, though.
I think you will.
I think you will, too.
I think you'll at least like it. Maybe not, like, be really obsessed with it, but I think you'll at least enjoy it. Because I like the premise of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to reading it.
I haven't read anything like it recently.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting something a little different, because I feel like some fantasy books, especially like the newer authors, kind of take ideas from other authors, which, you know, to each their own. So they start kind of being a little similar, but I think this is a different, unique idea when it comes to fantasy.
It's one of those books, there's not a lot of books out there that I would read again, just because there's so many things on the TBR, but that's
Right.
one that I'm dying to read again. So,
I love
not
it.
that I want to
I'm excited
overhype it for you, but
No, I know. I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing my sister said when she read it is she said it was a lot like, how does it feel? Which I know you guys
Oh.
haven't read that.
mm,
So I think that's why like it took her out of the how does it feel experience. But I still don't know anything about the Serpents series. So I need to read it and like verify that statement to confirm it. But I think that's
Interesting.
the difference. Because my sister hated how does it feel, which like talk about daggers to the heart. That's so rude. But she loves the Serpent. So I'll verify this coming soon, hopefully.
okay.
Yeah, we want to report back, please.
Definitely.
Okay, well, sweet. It was so fun talking to you. You're the cutest thing ever. So fun to officially meet you. I know you said in the beginning, but where can people find you and connect with you? All the things.
Yes, so my TikTok is my biggest platform. It's at Book Club Wannabe, but I also am on Instagram and YouTube. My Instagram is Sadie Love _ that's CEDELOVE _ and then just on YouTube it's Sadie Love, the CEDELOVE on YouTube as well.
Cool, perfect. We'll link all of your socials in our show notes so people can easily find you, connect with you. Also, are you on Goodreads? Or are you
Yes, but I'm like trying to be better. I like hardly ever update my Goodreads. Like I think of when I review a book, I go to TikTok and I don't think to go to Goodreads, but I'm trying to be better. Okay, I just actually updated my Goodreads for the first time in 2024 the other day with the Everking. So we're making progress. So bear with me with the Goodreads.
I feel like it takes people a second to get into Goodreads, and then once you are there, it's like your social media.
I know. That's what I mean.
I treat it as like Twitter. I'm like, gotta put my update.
Yeah.
Let everyone know what I'm up to,
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
love
reading.
it.
Well, cool. We really appreciate you taking time out of your reading schedule and all the things to chat with us. We appreciate it so much. Yeah. Thank you.
It was so
Thanks
nice
for
to meet
having
you.
me on. This was so fun.